Hello, I am Jamila McMallow, and I am a mindset coach for women executives and entrepreneurs. And today's topic is breaking up is hard to do. Now, I want to share a little bit of a personal story with you to kind of kick things off for this discussion. And I want to encourage you, if you have any thoughts, to please drop them in the comments and I will do my best to respond probably after so that I can stay focused and not spend too much time on this video. I always tend to talk a little long. But anyway, um, breaking up is hard to do. And I'm not just talking about, in your romantic relationships with men, although, yes, breaking up from a romantic relationship is difficult and challenging. However, any kind of breakup can be difficult and challenging if we're really honest with ourselves. So, what I'm actually talking about for me personally is a relationship that I had to end with a family member because the relationship just was toxic. And I just finally had to take myself out of the equation and to understand that this individual is determined to misunderstand me, is determined to make me a scapegoat emotionally for their feelings. Sometimes people will use you as their punching bag whenever they're feeling bad. Like, in order to build themselves up, they turn to you and start to try to tear you down because of whatever they're thinking or feeling about themselves. And I just decided, that's just not going to be me anymore. And the challenge with it, the reason why that's been difficult is not so much for me making the decision and the choice and recognizing that this is how it has to be. There's no more access to me. This individual has no more access to me unless and until I decide to allow them back into my life. And that hasn't happened. That point hasn't come yet. But the challenge is because in families, as you know, there are multiple members and they all have their own thoughts and feelings and opinions, and they may still continue to deal with this individual. But um, I know that for me, it's a no. And so I know that for you, there have been times where you have had to make hard choices when it came to your relationships with a variety of things. And it could have been a family member, could have been a coworker, could have been an ex-boyfriend, could have even been an ex-husband. Whatever the case is, you have had relationships in your life that you have had to let go in order for you to be healthy and happy emotionally and really just overall. It's important that we be able to recognize when we have patterns in our lives that are not helping us, but rather hurting us. And sometimes that familiarity, that learned toxicity is normalized to us. It could have a lot to do with our background, our childhood, our family, how we communicated with one another, whatever. If we learned toxic behaviors, that's what's normalized to us. And so when that's the case, sometimes we can struggle to really recognize those in others or understand exactly how to navigate our way out of those relationships. But I just I'm not interested in just talking about, having toxic relationships with, family members, boyfriends, whatever. I really want to talk to you about things that maybe you are in a relationship with right now that you need to break up with and why it might be difficult. So I'm going to talk about three main areas. And the first one is if you're dealing with a man that won't marry you and you want to be married. The second one is your relationship with fear around maybe your business or your job. And then also breaking up with your relationship with the lie that you don't have any money. Okay. So I'm going to be breaking them all three down. So the first one, breaking up with this relationship with a man that won't marry you. Okay. So first and foremost, and this will be quite brief. One thing men do is they will tell you at some point how they really feel about you and about the relationship. What we do sometimes as women is we're not listening, or we make excuses, or we want to try to explain to ourselves that, oh, maybe we just need to try harder, or just to convince him that he needs to change his mind. But if your desire is to be married, and you want to be with someone that wants to spend the rest of your life with you, and you're dating a man that has indicated that he has no intention of marrying you anytime soon or at all ever, then the only question you need to ask yourself is, why are you staying? If that's a deal breaker for you, if that's something you want for your life, then why are you staying in a relationship with someone who has clearly said they're not going to give it to you, at least not on your timetable? And it's okay for you to have a timetable. It's okay for you to have an expectation, because it's your life, and you get to decide how you're going to spend your time. And you get to decide who has access to you, who has access to your time, who has access to your energy, who has access to your life, to your heart. It's not a it's not a revolving door. Okay? You're not open to the public. You get to choose and decide who you're going to allow to be a part of your life. And if you have decided that this is something that you want to be happily married, you want to be married, you want to have a family, whatever. If that's the scenario that you want, and you're with someone who does not share that same vision, then you're the one that has to get the clue from the clue box, not him. He already knows what he's doing. He's doing it. You the one that ain't listening. And so you're going to have to break up with the idea that he is your only ticket to your vision, to your dream. That's what you're going to have to break up with. Not necessarily the relationship with him, but the idea that you have that this relationship is your last ticket, your last chance. There's nobody else coming. That's what you have to break up with. Okay? You have to break up with the idea that you cannot find or cannot have what you want right from the get go. You have to break up with the idea that there is no man that's going to actually show up ready to be in a long term relationship with you. That you have to let go of, that you have to give up. Because as long as you don't believe it to be possible or true for you, it won't be. But the minute you decide that it is true, that it is possible, that there is someone who is going to marry me, who is going to be a very compatible, wonderful person with excellent qualities and all the things that I desire. Once you decide that that exists for you, then the wheels start turning, and the pieces start falling into place for that to become your reality. It all starts in here. Everything starts in here. Okay. But the reason why you might be struggling to believe it, I'm going to get into a little bit later. Okay. But that's a relationship that you need to break up with, is your thinking on that. Okay. You need to break up with the idea that you're not going to be able to find what you want, and that you have to settle for less than what you're really desiring. Okay. If you want a long term commitment, if you want to be married, and you're with someone who does not want to marry you, it is very simple math. You're the only one that's complicating it. He's not. Okay. Second, breaking up with your relationship with fear, specifically around your business or in your job. So I'm just going to touch on the job real quick. Fear is a big part of why we do or don't make decisions, or do or don't take action. And when we have a job, sometimes we feel like we're stuck there, or like we don't have any other options, or we can't go anywhere else, or we can't do anything else. False, false, and more false. Optimize your LinkedIn profile, get your resume updated, and start applying for new jobs. You didn't enter into a marriage agreement to your job. You are not in a legally bound, morally bound relationship with your employer. If you don't like your job, go find another one. And in the meantime, do the best you can to shift your mindset about the one that you have, so it's not such a miserable experience while you're there. Because it could be, maybe it's not the job, maybe it's how you're perceiving it. Okay. So maybe there's some things that need to shift and change in here for you to be more happy where you are. But the point is, as if you're truly not happy, if the factors really are what they are, then find another job. The worst that can happen is you don't, and you still have a job. Okay. That's it. Why do we overthink things and make them more complicated than they have to be? Women, we do this all the time about everything. We just, well, what if nothing? Apply, go on an interview. Who cares? They may not offer you the job and they just might offer you the job. And oh my goodness, did you just get a job that you liked that's paying you more money? Wow, what a concept. Come on. Okay. So break up with the idea that you simply have to accept the job that you have as if there are no other opportunities on planet Earth that exist for you. As if no other employer is going to understand your childcare situation or your family situation or your health situation. How do you know that there's not an employer who has a better understanding, a better plan, a better way that they treat their employees? How do you know? You don't, because you have to go put yourself out there and start having those conversations, building those connections, having those interviews, asking those questions. Then you have answers. And when you have answers and information, then you can make a well informed decision. Then you can make a wise decision. But when we stay stuck in conjecture and just, well, I don't know, I don't know. Okay, well, then you don't know. You're right. So break up with your relationship with fear around finding another job. Okay? It's go do it. You can do it. You're allowed. Yes, you are. And now in your business, where fear can crop up is when you're an entrepreneur and maybe you have a corporate job and you have a business on the side, which is great because that means you at least have a steady form of income. But for those of us who are entrepreneurs and this is it, our business is our source of income. Well, sometimes we can get into a fear-based mindset when it comes to investing in our business or trying to DIY pieces of our business. And one of the ways that this can show up is rather than taking massive action, we sometimes can get stuck in fear. And sometimes we want to blame the coach that we feel like didn't help us, or blame the program where we feel like we didn't get results, or blame an industry that we feel like, oh, we need all this and that. You don't need anything but to understand this. I'm going to just say this because I've noticed this conversation floating around on social media and I got something to say about it. There's a lot of people that talk about, listen, in every industry in the world, people get scammed. People get scammed every day, all the time. And here's the thing. There are people who go out and sign up with coaches or sign up with mentors or jump into programs that have not done their research, who have not done their due diligence, and then get in there and realize, wow, this isn't what I thought or what I wanted. And I feel like, I'm not happy, whatever. And that's fine. But you'll also have in that same program other people who did have a good experience. And so is it the program, is it the mentor, or is it the individual? And typically people who feel like they've been scammed, that's not their first time feeling like they've been scammed. And I'm not saying that there are not legit people who have set up shop on folks and taken their money and not delivered, because I do have a couple of colleagues that have had that experience. I personally have never had that experience. Um, I have always gotten something out of every experience I've ever had with any coach that I've ever worked with. And I've always delivered with every client that I've worked with, because I worked one on one with my clients. So it's kind of hard not to deliver when you're with someone one on one, holding their hand through the entire process. Do you know what I'm saying? So even in that, individuals not understanding how the program's going to be delivered. Am I going to be working with this person one on one where they're really digging into my specific problems? Or is this just going to be a cattle call where I'm in a Zoom meeting with 50 other people and getting 2 seconds of the coach's time? Do you see what I'm saying? So I want to say that to say that what happens is when a person goes into a situation where they did not make a wise decision, sometimes we have to own the fact that we didn't make a wise decision. Just like when we end up in a marriage to a cheater, abuser, okay, my first marriage, I had to own the fact that I chose poorly. I had to own that. I chose poorly because of my own stuff that was going on in my head and stuff I was attracted to that I wasn't even familiar with or aware of. I chose poorly. But there's nothing wrong with marriage. Not at all. Nothing wrong with the arrangement of marriage. I just chose poorly. Okay? I had to own. Okay, I did mute myself by accident. Sorry. I had to own the fact that I chose poorly. So sometimes we want to blame the other person or the other party, whatever the situation is. And we have to take, as long as we're blaming somebody else for where we're not, then we can't move forward. We have to take personal responsibility for the fact that, yo, if in fact I chose the wrong person, or I chose the wrong coach, this program wasn't for me. Well, what did you learn from that experience that you're going to take with you forward so you make a better decision next time? Okay. It's nothing wrong with coaching. It's nothing wrong with the industry. It's something wrong with the person you chose and the program you chose. So, what are the red flags that you missed? What is the information that you needed to examine further to make a better decision? That's where your energy and effort needs to go, not in trying to focus on what needs all this. People just talking about stuff that don't make a difference. Listen, so get out of that fear. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in business, get out of that fear that I'm not gonna find nobody that's gonna be able to help me, or I'm gonna get scammed. Okay, fine. If you believe that, then that's exactly what's gonna happen. You already know that, because when you're an entrepreneur, here's what I know. Most of the work that we do as entrepreneurs is on our mindset. And if you haven't worked on your mindset with someone, if you haven't worked on your childhood trauma, on your background, which is the things that I do, you need to do that. Because absolutely, yes, that stuff will hold you back. But I'm only kind of going on this tangent to say that your fear will keep you from taking massive action in your business. Your fear will keep you from hiring a mentor or a coach that's going to help you actually get the traction that you need, instead of you piecemealing it through master classes and workshops and one-offs and all this nonsense. Just find the person that you feel like gets you, believes in you, and is going to help you, and then stick with them. You don't have to keep jumping all around. Now, I will say this: there are different coaches for different types of things, right? So yes, you got your copy coaches, got your sales coaches, and so no, you might need to hire different people for different areas, different focus, right? But when we get into contraction and we allow our fear to keep us from investing at all, then we get stuck in our own minds and in our own ways, because we have nobody outside of us helping us to get out of our own way and move forward. Okay. I have made the most money in my business when I'm working with a coach, period. Dot. And I have gone stretches of not working with a coach. And it is in those stretches I don't make any money, because I need someone outside of me to help me stay focused and on track. So I just say that to say that if you're in business for yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, get out of your fear and get some help and stop trying to DIY it. Okay. The last thing I want to touch on is breaking up. And so in that point, I want to say the relationship that you're breaking up in that scenario with your job and with your business is fear. Breaking up with your relationship with fear, fear of failing, fear of being taken advantage of, fear of not whatever, but fear. Got to break up with that relationship. Got to start believing that the possibility is real and exists for you to be a successful business owner, that it is absolutely real and possible for you to find someone who gets you and can support you and help you get to that next level. You got to believe that first, and then that is what will come to fruition, okay? And don't be just relying on what other people say. Learn how to trust yourself. And if you don't, if you have a history of making bad decisions, well, that's another conversation for another video. But it goes back to those pieces that I talked about, that background, that mindset, that childhood trauma. Okay. So I get that. But you have ways of vetting people. You have testimonials. Okay. You have all those types of things. Now, the last relationship that you got to break up with is this lie that you don't have any money. And it is a lie. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we all have access. Okay. And even credit is access to money. You've got friends, you've got family members, you've got GoFundMe, you've got credit, you've got all these things that are available to you if and when your back is against the wall and you absolutely need it. But if you keep speaking into existence the idea that you're broke, or if you keep speaking into the idea that you can't afford it, I don't have, then that's what you're going to continue to see. That's what you're going to continue to create for yourself. That's what you're going to continue to have. And I'm not saying 1 + 1 don't equal 2. And you looking at the spreadsheet and you like, I don't see no money nowhere. It's not there. Got that. But what you have to understand, and this is true of anything because you've done it in other areas of your life, is that you have to start feeling and believing you have something before you actually get it. before it actually shows up, because your mind is not going to focus on anything other than what you tell it. And so if you keep telling it that you're broke, that you can't afford it, that you don't have the money, that you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, you're going to continue to be presented with situations that are going to confirm that belief for you every day, 10 out of 10 times. But when you shift your focus to gratitude and you start focusing on what you're grateful for, and you recognize just how blessed you are and how much you have and what an abundance you have, you realize I'm already wealthy. I have a ton of everything. My goodness, I've got so much love. Wow. And when you start feeling abundant, when you start feeling grateful, when you start feeling resourced, when you start feeling like you have access, then you start making decisions from a much different place. And then as you make those decisions and you make those moves, you will find that the money starts to come to you. I made the decision to pay the most I've ever paid to work with a coach. I didn't have it. I had to put it on credit, but guess what? I've made most of it back. And it's been less than 2 months, or been about 2 months. Made most of it back just like that. Had I not hired her, let me tell you, had I not hired her, I would not have made anything, because there were things that were going on in my head that I couldn't see, that she was able to point out to me, just small tweaks, small shifts. She even told me when we started working together, you got all the pieces, like you've got it all, but it's so, and it's like that situation, like, well, so what are you doing? But you need someone outside of you to help you with that. And so I just share that to say that we've all been there. Even the people that you see that are maybe in the sales or business coach realm, that talk about all the money that they're making and things like that, they have all had those moments to where they didn't have any money, to where they felt totally scared, but they took that leap of faith. They jumped out there and they did it anyway, because they just knew, they had absolute certainty that if they did this, they were going to be able to create a result in their life that was going to produce the money that they needed, wanted, etc., whatever. So no, I'm not advocating that you go out there and start, getting a bunch of credit, especially if you are not a person who uses credit or money wisely. But what I am saying is that you can right now in this moment start to shift the feeling away from the lie that you don't have any money. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You have access to money. You have money coming into your bank account every week if you have a job. You have money coming into your life every week even if you have a business and maybe you have a spouse that's working. You have money flowing into your life at all times. You are not without money. That's a lie. Stop saying it. Start speaking into existence that which you want to be true. Because if you don't want to spend all your time worrying about money, then stop viewing it like you don't have it. People who don't have it, who believe they don't have it, think about money more than people who actually are comfortable with it and have a healthy relationship with it. Okay. So, having a healthy relationship with money is not one of being materialistic. It is not one of putting money ahead of everything else. Not at all. I said a healthy relationship with money. And if you are perpetuating the lie to yourself that you don't have any, that's not a healthy relationship with money. That's an indication you do not have a healthy relationship with money. If you are having challenges around your relationship with money, if you are having challenges with your relationship with fear, if you are having challenges with your relationships with men, these are all areas of my expertise. And I encourage you to reach out to me. You can send me a DM, you can comment below, etc., whatever. And yeah, and then we can chat and find out what's going on. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in for my live today. And I will see you next time. All right.